When we are in the height of this process, all our attention is on getting through day by day. Part 1 of this series covered many of the symptoms that you may have been experiencing. Now in this next phase, we start having what I call moments of grace, when for a short time, maybe even a day, the symptoms will take a break and we get some relief. Something I didn't mention in Part 1 is the biblical aspect. You may have biblical figures, including God and Jesus, involved, whether you're religious or not. Everyone and anything can show up from our soul, past lives, psyche, and subconscious. It's quite a mixed bag. The weight we've been feeling starts becoming lighter. After the height of our experience, meaning the moment where everything collapses, the dismantling of the false self, where it feels like we're being dissolved into the ground, are in essence dying. Then, like a miracle, it's followed by an exhilaration, the highest of highs. Here's a poetic description of a Kundalini awakening that sums it up perfectly from Gopi Krishna from the evolutionary energy in man. Suddenly, with a roar like that of a waterfall, I felt a stream of liquid light entering my brain through the spinal cord. The illumination grew brighter and brighter, the roaring louder. I experienced a rocking sensation and then felt myself slipping out of my body, entirely enveloped in a halo of light. I was no longer myself, no longer as I knew myself to be, a small point of awareness confined in a body, but instead was a vast circle of consciousness in which the body was but a point, bathed in light and in a state of exaltation and happiness impossible to describe. By now, we've made it through the storm and are making our way out of the abyss. Here is some of what you may experience at this phase. A crystallization of your physical eyes and inner eye, things becoming crystal clear. People might walk up to you with random messages that have personal meaning to you, then they seem to just disappear. It feels like you're in some time of bubble where you don't question what's happening, you're only in the moment. You're receiving communications from everywhere, license plates on cars, songs, books that light up for you or fall off the shelf. There's sensations throughout the body and electrification that comes in waves of different intensities, sometimes to the point of having to lay down. It can take so much energy that you need to sleep, or sometimes it feels like a warm hug. Dreams become less nightmarish and more meaningful. You start to feel more of an angelic presence. You might see orbs or flashes of light. Synchronicities that you have no way of explaining, fantastical, supernatural types of things. Your intuition is drastically heightened, and you have an organic knowing of things. This becomes a major player in your transformation and healing. Communications through electronic devices, GPS, phones, videos. As an example, I once replayed a video over and over to find a message I had heard, but couldn't find it. You may also have sensitivity to sound and light. Support has arrived, but this is only the beginning, the tip of the iceberg. Even though, in a sense, things have started looking up, it can be a tricky time because once you've awakened, you're in for the long haul. Each of us has our own blueprint, and here is where the work will start. When you go within, it might take a bit of time to get past the negative voices. I tried different methods, everything from prayer to asking for protection. The key is to be assertive and not fearful. The I is more powerful. Its light will obliterate the dark, but it may not happen overnight. I continued with automatic writing, which turned out to be a useful tool in shadow work. My subconscious was talking directly to me. Ultimately, it was helpful, but I will admit for a time it was disturbing. There's a lot to unpack from our DNA memory, ancestral lineage, unresolved trauma, and our soul. If you have a lot to heal in this lifetime, it doesn't mean you're a horrible person, although it can feel that way at first. Remember, healing isn't just for ourselves, but for our lineage and the one soul. Like I've said, maybe we're ready to wrap this up and get off this evolutionary wheel, perhaps even seeking our salvation. I've noticed a surge in the popularity of automatic writing. I would debate that it's not true automatic writing, but instead stream of consciousness writing, or perhaps hearing messages from your higher self and writing them down in a flow as you hear them. Maybe it's just semantics, but even Edgar Cayce, a renowned clairvoyant called the Sleeping Prophet, warns that automatic writing is nothing to be fooled with. I do agree intention is key, but since I also channel in my meditative state, I notice a distinct difference between receiving a transmission and being able to write it down and putting pencil to paper and allowing it to take over. There is a subtlety. Automatic means you're not doing it. To each his own, but a cautionary tale from me. Now we see the ego and shadow for what it is. We've been given this gift of clarity and observation. My guidance told me to turn it around back to me. A big realization in this process is seeing how we blame and point to everything outside of us rather than looking back at ourselves. So we begin to look at our triggers. There's a line of questioning you can do to get to the core, the root. You start by asking how it made you feel, then when were other times you felt the same way, and you go deeper and deeper and deeper. This isn't meant to beat yourself up, but to show you the power you hold over your emotions. Another key bit of guidance I received was about equilibrium, a calm state of mind. Having equilibrium is key to our well-being and how we respond to events in our daily life. A little mention here that further up the road, we can lighten up on too much self-observation, but for now it's something that we feel called to do. Here are some suggestions of what might help at this stage. Begin meditation if you're ready, or just sit quietly even for a few minutes. If you're still hearing disturbing voices, and even if you're not, you might want to recite this at the start. Change up the wording to suit you. I welcome what breathes God's word that sits in the light that I may be there myself. And you could also add, all others step aside. Keep a journal and write down your experiences and what you're feeling. You may hear guidance, and if so, don't judge or edit what you hear. At first it may only be cryptic sentences, quotes, or sayings. After time, you will learn to discern between the ego voice and the voice of the higher self. Let go of any resistance and allow the process. Find sources that you trust and that resonate to increase your knowledge and be with kindred souls. It seems that most of us go through this alone without others to talk to that understand. Drink plenty of water. It's important to stretch, allowing the energy to move through the chakras. Things like acupuncture, chiropractors, and massage help release any blockages that you have. Continue spending time in nature wherever and whenever you can. Use your creativity, gardening, cooking, painting, music. Find what brings you peace and healing and that allows expression. There's no right or wrong, only what works. This is a soul-dictated journey, so please listen to what yours is telling you. At one point, when I was very naive, I asked that my process be accelerated. Are you laughing yet? I was in so much distress that I wanted it to pass quickly. Be careful what you wish for. We are everyday humans going through this transformation while still having to manage everyday logistics. Not all of us were practicing spiritual modalities in the hopes of enlightenment. We may have been blindsided in a sense. Everyone's situation is different, and we each manage the best we can. Some days will be very tough and you'll want to give up, but then the moment of grace will come. I have said that waking up is the best thing that can happen for you in a lifetime. When we transition to the non-physical, this is what we take with us. We take a cleansed soul and an expanded consciousness, not our possessions, not our success. We don't take anything that is of the material world. I don't consider myself enlightened, but maybe being awake is being enlightened. Some claim that they are enlightened, and who am I to say otherwise? Who knows for sure? According to legend, when the Buddha realized enlightenment, he said something to the effect of, "Isn't it remarkable? All beings are already enlightened." Because all beings are already Buddha, the task is not to attain enlightenment, but to realize it. The one thing I do know is that I don't know. As Socrates is quoted as saying, I know that I know nothing. In part 3, I'll talk about release and surrender, lingering darkness, abilities you never knew you had, and the heart chakra opening. Thanks for being on this journey with me, and together we will support each other and help to raise and heal the consciousness of the collective soul. We are all one, one with all that is.